Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam, Trilokyam Sacharacharam, Tat Padam Darshitam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva, Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva, Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So where are we in our text?
We're on Shloka 15, chapter 1.
First chapter, correct?
Yes.
Ganesh, will you help us out, please?
Samyogascha viyogascha vartate na chate na me natvam naham jaganvedam sarvatmaiva kevalam sarvamatmaiva kevalam. Union and separation exist in regard neither to you nor to me. There is no you, no me, nor is there this universe. All is verily the self alone.
So the point that we're getting at here is a very interesting question to ask. What is yoga? Means union. Patanjali says yoga's chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is the restraining of the mind stuff from forming vrittis. Is it the self that gets united with Brahman? No. Nilang, I have an assignment for you. I want you to do tapas so that you now are united with having a human body. It's ridiculous. You have a human body and you know it. So we say it's the mind that gets yoked to the self. There's this wonderful, wonderful image. It's one of my favorites. It's of Hanumanji embracing Lord Ram. Hanuman is the mind, Ram is the self. But what this verse is saying, if the mind is fundamentally unreal, Why should you be concerned about whether or not it's absorbed in the self or not? Union, non-union makes no difference to me. Now, in the Wednesday group, we've gone through two wonderful texts of Nisargadatta Maharaj. The first, of course, is most famous, I Am That. Can't remember the name of the second one, but it's the his last teachings before he passed away. A couple things that I discovered in that second book. First of all, Nisargadatta Maharaj uses the word consciousness to refer to mind. Actually, the word he's actually using is Chaitanya. That we find out in the second book. But one of the questions that's asked of him, are you in samadhi all the time? And he says, of course not. My state is beyond all mindsets. That never changes. In the Christian scripture, Jesus says something that typifies the man or woman of realization. He says, I am the same yesterday, today, and forever. Any thoughts? Next verse.
Shabdadipancha kasyasya naivasitvam na te punah tvameva paramam tattvam atah kim paritapsya tapyase. You do not belong to that which is composed of the five objects of sense, such as sound, nor does that belong to you. You indeed are the supreme reality. Why then do you suffer?
Yes. So, what he's riffing on has to do with both yoga and Vedanta's understanding of sense perception. So, for example, Shankara will talk about what it's called the Panchakarana, the fivefold division and subsequent recombination of the subtle elements, the tanmatras, and their recombination in their grossified form in the phenomenal world. And Swamiji in both Atmabodha and Viveka Chudamani has this funny little chart. I think they look like Pac-Man. I don't know if any of you remember that. I struggled with that. I didn't get it. I didn't believe in it. I thought there's something deeper. And later, what I learned was it has to do with Vedanta's understanding of perception itself. For example, if you were here in my living room, you would see the coffee table. What's the coffee table made out? Made out of wood. What's wood? Cellulose. What's cellulose? Well, mostly carbon. But if I dream about a coffee table, what is the coffee table of my dream made of? full. Even though to the dreamer it appears just as much wood as this does right now. No, it's made up of earth, air, fire, water, and space. Earth, smellability. Air, touchability. Fire, seeability. Water, tasteability. Space, ether, hearability. In their various multiplicitous combinations. So this understanding of the Tanmatras is not because the ancients just didn't understand modern chemistry. No, it's deeper and more subtle than that. It's about perception itself. Now, if you see a mirage, an optical illusion, seen but not real. When I was a little kid, we went to, I don't think it was Knott's Berry Farm. It might have been Knott's Berry Farm, but it was one of those kind of Westernish amusement things. And there was this thing, I don't know how they did it, but they had this trough of water, and where you were standing and the angle of the walls of the building, I swear to God, it looked like water was running uphill. It wasn't. It was all an optical illusion. Seemed real, but it wasn't. So what the shloka is implying is the whole world of perception, comprised of the tanmatras, the five elements, which are nothing more than seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. Seen, but not real. No need to get rid of them. So we talk so much about turning the world to ashes, manonasha, destroying the world. Oh, I have to be in wackadoodle mind state. So the world disappears. There is value in nirvikalpa samadhi. But what this verse is implying, when I see the world of name and form as it really is, then it has no power over me. It's just optical illusion. Pretty to look at, but insubstantial. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Janma mrityurnate chittam bandhamoksho shubha shubhau katham rodishire vatsa nama rupam nate name. For you there is no birth or death. For you there is no mind. For you there is no bondage or liberation, no good or evil. Why do you shed tears, my child? Neither you nor I have name and form.
Yes. So all the things that in the beginning we're worried about. Wait a minute. The Vedas talk about these things. The Vedas are revealed literature. Are you saying they're not true? Do the Karmakanda portions of the Vedas contradict with the Upanishads? Well, yes and no. Now, Neelan, you're a scientist. What is your actual degree in?
Cell and molecular biology.
Cell and molecular biology. Okay. So, when you were a youngster, perhaps in middle school, I'm sure that you learned the periodic table of elements.
Yes.
Did they, I'm really old, they used to show models of the atom, and it was like a baby solar system with the neutrons and the protons, and then they would show the electrons orbiting around them. Did they do that too?
Yes.
Now, you're a sophisticated scientist. Is that really what an atom is?
No, it's just the imagination.
But from the scientific standpoint,
They take it real.
we've got these subatomic particles. What I see, of course, nova is the source of my science now. But it's the probability of things being in places I barely understand. Probably don't. But the point is, those earlier models of chemistry were what was appropriate for a 7th or 8th grader, not a postdoc or a university student. Likewise, karma, reincarnation, striving hard for liberation, the jiva caught in samsara and needing to be reborn and all that sort of stuff. It's of value for those of us who are, shall we say, at the religious level, deeply identified with the body, or the body plus the subtle body. And it gives us tools to use to purify the mind. But as we get more and more sattvic, more and more subtle, we find that those ideas, while useful for beginners and intermediate students, they drop away. So let's go through these ideas and see how, in fact, they're not really real. So it's kind of a list. Will you help us out again, Ganesh, and read the list for us?
No birth or death.
Yes. So at one level, oh yes, I go to the astrologer and see why my life is so terrible because of past lives, blah, 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 blah. Any of you do that? But the self in me is never born and never changes and never dies. There is no karma. So, listen carefully. In the beginning, we think, I am bound, I am being born again and again, and I'm finally going to have an experience where I don't have to come back again. Listen very carefully. What I realize, oh, I was never born in the first place. Just like the dreamer, I dreamt I was in Mar-a-Lago and the FBI came and they put me in handcuffs and they took me to the jail in Palm Beach and I was going to be thrown into prison for 10 years, and I had to get out of the prison. Then I woke up. I never lived in Mar-a-Lago. It wasn't true. It was just a dream. Next idea.
No mind.
Those with middling or dull intellects, their knowledge of the self is dependent upon control of the mind. We can say they're barely jnanis. Other scriptures will say they're third-class jnanis. They know who they are, but as soon as the mind starts to come back, they forget. So they need to control the mind. With high beam eyeballs, stop my mind. But what we need to come to understand is the fundamentally loose nature of the mind itself. You can't think a real thought. So why are you concerned about your stupid thoughts? Get out. Swamiji used to say. Get out. Have you ever been at a restaurant with a friend, you're having lunch, and you're engrossed in a wonderful conversation, and other people in the restaurant are talking, but you have the capacity just to tune them out and pay attention to your friend? Do that with your whole mind. It's just background. And an amazing thing happens when we quit struggling with the mind, when we quit believing the mind, when we get out of the mind. The mind by itself settles down. Next idea.
No bondage or liberation.
Both bondage and liberation occur to the mind, not the self. The self is ever free. Oh, Jim, I got all identified and I forgot myself. Oh, you ceased to exist from 3 to 4 this afternoon? Oh, I was so triggered. And who knew the upset in the mind? I did. No, you didn't disappear. Oh, Jim, I went on a retreat and I had an experience of the self, but I've lost it. You stopped existing when you left the retreat. Listen carefully. There are 2 kinds of knowledge. The first is real knowledge, real with a capital R. And this is the self-evidence of the self. It's self-luminosity. It's Swayam Jyoti. How do you know you are you? You don't see, hear, taste, touch, or smell yourself. You don't emote yourself. You don't think yourself. That you know you are. And the great cosmic joke is in the midst of your misery, you have that. Then there's this very interesting thing that happens to the human mind. When the human mind is covered with ignorance, I think I'm in bondage. I think I'm my body. Then when I have awakened mind, I know in my mind, oh, I get it. It's me. I never was a person. I was never born. I never died. Where does that knowledge go at night when you go to sleep? Gone. So from the viewpoint of the absolute, there is no bondage. There is no liberation. Or one could say the self is already. Don't worry. Be happy. Everybody's already realized. So Mayor Bao used to say, is to drive people nuts. You already know you are you. It's the eternal knowledge, only knowledge that's real. Next idea.
No good or evil.
Good and evil are simply the mind's judgments of various actions. Actions under all circumstances for all people. And nothing but the force of the past maturing as it interacts with various qualities of mind and the greater society, the larger karmic environment. Nobody really has an individual doer. It's all guna and karma, Krishna says in Gita. And the mind makes judgments. Just don't believe them. If you're seeing a world, you have judgments. You cannot see a world without the mind, which is nothing but judgments. So the man of wisdom does not believe his own stupid opinions. Any thoughts on this? Next idea.
Neither you nor I have name and form.
Yes. So the names and forms are like the names and forms in a dream. Just like all the elements in a dream never touch me, the waker, all the elements in the world of the Vishwa, the waking state, none of it ever touches me. Or just the dance, the play, the light show, the Leela. Is that the end of it?
That's it.
All right. In thoughts? Next verse.
Aho chitta katham bhrantah tadhavasi pishachavat abhinnam pashyachatmanam ragatyagat sukhi bhava. O mind, why do you wander about deluded like an unclean spirit? Behold the self indivisible. Be happy through renunciation of attachment.
So, what is my problem? My problem is the mind. So, this whole world is nothing but Brahman. Brahman is Satchidananda. So, what's the difference between a Mahatma and an axe murderer, I'd like to say? They're both Brahman. They're both completely Brahman. There's no part of the axe murderer that's not Brahman. Yet surely there's a difference. The difference is in their minds. The mind of the axe murderer runs around like a ghost. The mind of the stockbroker also runs around like a ghost. The mind of the seeker also runs around. But the man or woman of wisdom has developed this trick, this capacity to let every all my strivings cease. They're not even spiritual states to strive for. There's just silence, just stillness, just emptiness. In 2015, when I went to Jaipur with my friend Devda, he wanted me to meet his guru, Bhuvaneshwarananda. We just called him Guru. And one of the customs at that ashram is everybody gets a little paper bowl of fruit, prasad. So we eat the prasad. And because I was old, and because I wore a dhoti and a kurta, and was, anyway, he treated me with great dignity and special. So special, I got a big bowl of fruit. So one day I was at the ashram and they were serving the prasad, and I had the little bowl. I'm eating my fruit, and Guru says, "Why didn't you give him the big bowl? He's supposed to get the bigger bowl." And I said, "Oh, Gurudev, it's no big deal. I'm too fat anyway." And then I said, "Besides, you giving the Maunam ekasa. And he just emptied out. He said, Shunya ekasa. Wonderful, wonderful. Next verse.
Twameva tattvam hi vikaravarjitam nishkampamekam hi vimoksha vigraham nate cha rago kyathava viragah katham hi santapyasi kama kamatah. You verily are truth, devoid of change, motionless, one of the nature of freedom. You have neither attachment nor aversion. Why do you suffer seeking the objects of desires?
So, as Swamiji used to say, it's the higher part of my mind talking to the lower part of my mind. So that's what a verse, these past verses, he's not talking to someone else, he's talking to his own mind. And again, these are meditation verses. So we can use them to turn our attention inward. We can use them to remember. There's a Shankara hymn, Prathas Marami Hriddhi. I don't know if any of you know it. Swamiji translated as in the early hours of the morning, Pratha, I meditate on the self of my heart. It's not what it really says. What's Smarami? Here's such.
Remember.
Who remembers?
I remember.
I remember. I don't know. Maybe Shankar had a busy day the day before. He was busy, teleporting across India or something like that. I have no idea when he wrote this hymn. Just see him in the morning, maybe high in the Himalayas, maybe near Badrinath. Sun is coming up. Just stop. So here, what is it that we are to remember? We have a list again. The first one, first idea.
You verily are truth.
Yes, Sat. Is that the word in the Sanskrit? Is it Satyam or Sat?
Actually, it's tattva.
Tattva. Okay. Tat actually means that. So tattvam, I would say, is thatness or suchness or isness. You verily are that. The end of the 17th chapter of Gita, we have the exegesis, the breaking apart of the little phrase tattvamasi. That is the end of it. Remember, you are that. Next idea.
Devoid of change.
Is it acharam?
Vikara varjita.
Vikara. I understand that. But But anyway, no change. You can find out whether you change at all. Stop during the day. Turn your attention inward. Take a breath and notice the knower. Yep, nobody there. Hasn't changed. Next idea.
Motionless. Motionless.
Yes. Body runs around. Even sitting still is an action. You never move. Emotionless. And what word did he use for that?
Nishkampameka. Nishkampa.
Nishkampam. I don't know that. Next idea.
1.
Ek.
Yeah.
So there's not a self in me that's like the self in you. The self in me is the self. Greatest, easiest way I've been able to demonstrate that. You have to imagine I have a big piece of butcher paper. There are 6 pinholes in it. The room is dark. And there's light behind the butcher paper. So you see 6 little pinholes of light. So the question is, are there 6 pen lights shining through each pinhole? Or is there one flashlight shining through 6 pinholes? So there's not an infinite number of individual little conscious selves peeping out. There's an infinite number of equipments of the same one indivisible conscious being is peeping through. So there was a poem by this poet Marlena Magaldi. I can't remember much of the poem, but she had this wonderful line that the eyes are windows into eternity. Magic holes, that's what she said. Magic holes into eternity. So the body over there is different than mine. The thoughts and feelings and experiences are different than mine. But the conscious being looking out of those eyes is literally myself. Next idea.
Of the nature of freedom.
Yes. I was never bound. I'm always free. Nothing binds me. And I love that wonderful saying of Ram Dass towards the end of his life. Even dying is safe. Or Deepak Chopra once said, what's the opposite of life? Death? And he says, no, the opposite of death is birth. There is no opposite to life. You are ever free. You don't have to become free. The mind just has to wake up from its delusion. Realize that I've always been. The other night at class, I had this wonderful experience. Actually happened. Many of you notice sometimes when I take my glasses off to meditate, I put them on the table here. For some reason, I took off my glasses and I put them in my shirt, which I will do when I'm out and about. And I looked at something on my phone and then I was looking for my glasses. I said, where are my glasses? A thought went through my mind, oh, F, I've lost my glasses. Did they fall on the floor or anything? Didn't say anything to anybody. Oh, there they are. That's our journey to liberation. We get nothing new. You already have it. You already are in it. What we're looking for. Next verse.
Oh, there's some more things. Oh, you have neither attachment nor aversion.
Oh, yes. Attachment and aversion. They belong to the stupid mind. Now, one of the things that is implied in this, to try to make the equipment perfect. I'm going to go from being a vulgar, egoistic person to this very pure saint, is like trying to count to the highest number. Now think. The self is infinite. And the equipment, by definition, is finite. The finite does not become infinite. Get out. See that you already are in. Now, on one level, we deal with our attachments and our aversions, our likes and our dislikes. We endeavor to have samadrishta, equality of vision, yoga rudha, attaining mastery over the mind. But then we forget the mind. We don't have an expectation of the mind to be other than it is. Just mind states. No concern for them. You are ever other. Any thoughts? Next verse.
Vadanti shrutayas sarva nirgunam shuddhamavyayam ashariram samam tvam tad ashariram samam tvam tat mam vidhi samshayah. All the scriptures say that the truth is without existence, is without attributes, pure, immutable, bodiless, and existing equally everywhere. No need to be that. There is not the least doubt about it.
No need to be that?
No me to be there.
No me to be there. Oh, okay. K-N-O-W. Yes. So all these scriptural statements, frequently, most of these poetic scriptures, at some point will footnote the Upanishads. This is my authority. So here Dattatreya is saying all the things I've said echo what's in the Upanishads. You are other than anything in the world of name. I want to see you. All right. Next one.
Sakara, Sakaramanrutam Vidhi, Nirakaram Nirantaram, Etat Tatpopadeshena, Napunar Bhavasambhavaha. Know that which has form to be false, that which is formless to be eternal. Through the instruction of this truth, there is no longer rebirth into this world.
Yes. So, again, we need to reconcile these two scriptural statements. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Brahman alone is real, the phenomenal world is Mithya, illusion. Vaitatya, false. Bhranti, delusion. We have all sorts of different words that we use. Yet the scriptures thunder, all this is verily Brahman. So the names and forms constantly morphing, constantly changing. But the very substratum of the world of name and form still changes. Bliss, consciousness. So when we say they're false, it does not mean that we do not perceive them. It means we see them for what they are. Imagination, not something substantive, concrete, and separate from me. We talk about what Shankara calls anyonya adhyasa, mutual superimposition. Talked a lot about superimposing upon the self the qualities of the not-self. But the mind in ignorance attributes to the world of name and form. It externalizes my self-nature. Sat. Ganesh is over there, and he has existence separate from me. The couch is over there. It has existence outside consciousness. Chit, consciousness, pure awareness. I'm a conscious being. Nilong over there is a conscious being. His consciousness is different from mind and separate. Nirana. Ooh, I love Nilong. You make me happy. I've externalized my honor. All of that way of seeing is mithya, illusion. Bhranti, delusion. Vaitadya, falseness. What word did they use here for illusion?
It's found to be false. Anritam.
I don't know that word either. They are seen, but not substantive, separate, concrete, and real. They're just pretty to look at. The hard part is when those false forms start going blah, 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 blah. You make me so happy. You make me unhappy. It's your fault. The stock market went up. I'm successful. The stock market went down. Oh, fear. I think it's real. Next verse.
Ekameva samam tattvam vadanti hi vipaschitah ragatyagat punaschittah ragastyagat punaschittam ekanekam na vidyate. Sages say that reality is one only and the same, and through renunciation of attachment, the mind, which is one and many, ceases to exist.
Yes. The mind is attachment, we could say. You don't have to worry about thoughts going by or perceptions. Mind here is attachment. It is sangraha. I want stuff. It is kama, craving. Raga, dvesha. It's a very interesting thing. Okay, I understand how you could be attached to things you think are good. But am I attached to things that I perceive and experience as bad? Yes. Have you or do you ever have a friend come to you and they'll go, oh, you have no idea what my boss did at work this past week. It's the same thing he's been doing for months. I can't stand it. He's blah, 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 blah. Or someone else says, oh, I'm still triggered. My inner child is acting up. It all has to do with the abuse of my grandmother. That's attachment to our aversions. Sure we do. Sure we do. This is the mind. The after the fact chintya. The mental rumination, positive or negative. We had the story in Yoga Vasishta about, is it Shambhara? Is that the right demon king? With the three Terminator demons?
Yeah.
Yeah, finally got it right. So the king of the demons, Shambhara, is involved in the war with the Devas. He comes up with a good idea. He creates these three super demons who are without ego. They go to war with the Devas and they're just creaming them. So we just had the story and I'm forgetting. They go to Vishnu first, don't they?
I forget now.
Yeah, they go to Vishnu. And he says, this is what you do. Go back to them, engage in battle, and feign defeat, run away. And do it over and over. So the Devas go into battle, fight, 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 fight. Ah, you beat us. And they run away. And they come back, fight, 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 fight. Ah, you beat us, and run away. So the three super demons start to have chintya, talking about themselves. Just see how we kick their butts. You know, we are super demons. We have conquered the Devas. Finally, the war in heaven's going to be over. Nobody is as good as we are. Soon as Chintya starts, pride develops. As soon as pride develops, Bhaya develops, fear. As soon as that happens, day is wiped out. So Shambhala goes, what am I going to do? So he creates 3 more super demons 2.0. These are also without ego, but they are Shrotriya. Just doesn't mean that they know the scripture. It means they have the tools to keep ego from forming. They go into battle with the Devas. The Devas try the same trick. Terminator demons 2.0, they just keep dropping it. They keep dropping it. They know what to do. They could not be defeated. So they go to Brahma, the creator. The only thing for me to do is go down and wipe them out for you. So he destroys them. And the Terminator demons are liberated. There's help for all of us, hope for all of us. So this mind is attachment. It's formed from chintya. So not only be without ego, but be versed in the tools to keep ego from forming. Intense vairagya. No personal sense of self is real. No object in the world can give me any inherent pleasure. It's just a taste of my own self-nature. Let go, keep your heart. Any thoughts on this? One more.
Anatmarupam cha katham samadhi, atmaswarupam cha katham samadhi, astiti nastiti katham samadhi, mokshaswarupam yadi sarvamekam. If it is of the nature of the not self, how can there be samadhi, super conscious realization? If it is of the nature of the self, how can there be samadhi? If it is both is and is not, how can there be samadhi? If all is one and is of the nature of freedom, how can there be samadhi?
So, in the Raja Yoga tradition, yamas, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. In Viveka Chudamani, Shankara has a whole section on Nirvikalpa Samadhi, practice Samadhi. This verse is saying It's un. Listen very carefully. Samadhi is important. There's a wonderful little video that I've been sending to people. I think I may send it out on the email list so all of you can look at it. And it's, if you wish, you can look it up tonight. It just says The Soul of Silence, Swami Tapovan. And it's from one of his writings. He's describing his meeting as a youngster with Ramana Maharshi. I had no idea he had seen Ramana. Now, Ramana at that time, from what I've been able to gather from, he says it was 40 years prior to 1953. So that had to have been like 1913. So Ramana must have been in his mid-30s. He was living in the cave on the hill. So Tapovan says, I was just a brahmachari at that, still a student. So he goes and he bows to Bhagawan and has some bananas for prasad and sits in front of him. Bhagawan just looks into his face. Some monkeys come and they take the fruit and they eat. Tapovan just looks into his face for about an hour. An hour, one gets up to get his meal, his bhiksha. Tapovan says, and the silence kept getting deep, deeper as he was going down the mountain. This is samadhi. This is a mind state. It's great value. First, it reveals our essential nature as existence, consciousness, and bliss absolute. Its great value is it is so delicious that it pulls the mind completely out of the world. But it comes and it goes. Some samadhis are deeper, some are not so deep. Every time it has different taste, quality. There's no end to how deeply the mind can revel in itself. So we cannot be attached to it. If you chase samadhi, it recedes. If you just open, surrender, so Tejo Mayananda always used to say, I woke up this morning and I renounced being president of the United States. Nonsense. He was never going to be president. You cannot renounce something you haven't got. Is that clear? Get established in samadhi, then give it up. Meaning don't be attached. All right. Any thoughts or questions on this? Good place to stop. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha.